We'll be hearing from a former child soldier who's gone on to achieve personal and professional success in his adulthood. And he'll be speaking before the UN on this topic later this month. But first, the effort of Islamic militants to reach, recruit, and radicalize young Muslims from the West, including America's heartland. Abdi Warsame is the first Somali-American elected to the Minneapolis City Council. He took office in 2014 with the hopes of helping his ward with affordable housing initiatives and to give his community a greater voice in local politics, but has since been faced with the grim realization that young men and women are being targeted and in some cases successfully recruited into joining Islamic terrorist groups overseas. He's now working to bring attention to the problem and fighting to keep other Muslim youth from becoming radicalized. He joins us from Minneapolis. Councilman Abdi Warsame, thank you so much. Political Magazine recently suggested you may be the only city council member in the nation who lies awake at night thinking about how to fight ISIS. How did this happen?
Thank you for having me, Larry. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And it happened because the ward that I represent has a large East African population and a large Somali-American population. And some of our youth have been enticed to join this radical organization overseas. So as you can imagine, we've been thrust upon this transnational and worldwide war.
How did the people over there get to contact the people in your ward?
I mean, I think they pride upon our vulnerability. We're a new community. We're just trying to fit into the American way of life. And some of our youth who are marginalized, unemployed, out of work, have been susceptible to this. Networks very effective media and social media propaganda. And they've managed to recruit one or two from our ward. And for us, one is too many. And this is the struggle that we are facing right now.
When you ran for office, you didn't think that one of your agendas would be battling terrorism, did you?
No, I mean, I didn't think I would be talking about foreign affairs or international terrorism. You know, I was there to fix potholes and create jobs and make sure that public works was attentive to the needs of my constituents, and in a way to bridge cultures, you know, to bridge the large and growing East African community with the broader community of Minnesota. But, you know, we were thrust into this issue, which is the issue of the age, you know, terrorism and extremism, whether it's homegrown, whether it's domestic terrorism, as what we saw in Charlotte, South Carolina, or terrorism in the form of ISIS, is something that we will have to grapple with for the next couple of generations.
Former U.S. Senator Norm Coleman said that Minnesota is the land of 10,000 terrorists. You buy that?
No, Minnesota is a land of 10,000 lakes, and Norm Coleman was just trying to get attention to his new right-wing PACs and try to get some money from Islamophobia and trying to create tensions. And he's just looking for a headline. And if you read the actual article, it was a really poorly written article, and the headline was just to grab attention.
Since 2008, Somali-American teens started leaving the twin cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul to join the Al-Qaeda affiliation known as Shabaab. Federal authorities say at least 20 men from Minneapolis were charged with crimes connected to Al-Shabaab from 2009 to 2011. Go a little deeper. What is the attraction?
I mean, the attraction is, you know, a lot of these young men. And if we look at the profiles of the people who left were not homeowners. They didn't have a mortgage to worry about. They didn't have professional degrees. They didn't have professional jobs. They were not integrated into mainstream society. So you had young men who had no real prospects in the environment that they lived in, who had a romanticized ideal, romanticized notion of Somalia and fighting for the Somali cause. So it was more nationalism. It was more confused ideology, and it was more trip and to get some sort of to fit in rather than any real ideology. But if you look at our community, if you look at the Somalis in Minnesota, we are doing very well. You know, we are integrated. We have a large number of Somalis who fight in the armed forces. We have Somalis joining the police department in St. Paul and in Minneapolis and the Metro Transit and trying to serve the community that we live in. We have a large number of business owners. So we feel very comfortable where we are. But this problem is a small problem, but nevertheless is a problem that keeps me awake at night and is a problem that we need to really deal with. And the community needs to be the answer. We are the answer. And there is a saying that I like to use, which is, if you're not in the kitchen, then you're on the menu. So we have to be part of the solution, and we have to fix this problem, and we will.
What brought Somalis in particular to Minneapolis, St. Paul in the first place?
Well, it wasn't the beautiful weather that we have in Minnesota. What brought Somalis was a tragic civil war that started in 1991, and you were probably aware of the droughts and the suffering that took place in the mid-90s, Black Hawk Down incident. And Somalia, for the last 25 years, has had no stability. And many Somalis found themselves in the diaspora. So some in London, where I grew up, others in Canada, and some found their way in Minnesota. And they felt comfortable in Minnesota. They got jobs. And Somalis are entrepreneurial people. They're people who like to earn a wage. They're people who like to work. And right now we have a large number of people, Somalis purchasing homes in Minnesota, starting businesses, and doing quite well. So what attracted us was, you know, it was the opportunities that were presented in the 1990s in Minnesota. But what brought us here was the civil war that was described as a mini genocide that took place over since 1991 to today.
Minnesota is a blue state, isn't it?
It is, and I'm a Democrat also. And we're very proud to be Democrats.
You attended the White House's Countering Violent Extremism Summit earlier this year. What was accomplished? What was that like?
I mean, what was accomplished was dialogue with the large and growing Muslim population in the United States. And so you had members of the community from Boston, Los Angeles, and Minnesota. And I was part of the Minnesota delegation. You know, our police chief from Minneapolis, as well as the police chief from St. Paul were there. The sheriff of Hennepin County was there, as well as the state attorney, Andy Lugar. And we had discussions with top-level officials of the Obama administration. And what was discussed was, how could we play a role in designing the CVE program, or the Counter Violent Extremism program? And how can we create awareness? How can we create education for the community to tackle this issue? Because it cannot be just a stick. It cannot be just law enforcement going and tracking people. So that's important. But what also needs to be done is to also educate the community, to work with law enforcement, to make sure that we are part of the solution. And I think this was very important for us. And also the message that came out of the White House, which was that the Muslim community is not being targeted, that the Muslim community is part and parcel of the United States, and we have a role to play in defending our country. And this is the message that I gave, which was, you know, I am a council member. I'm an American first, and I happen to be an American of Somali origin. But my role is to defend, to make sure that everybody in my city of Minneapolis and in my state of Minnesota and in my country, the United States, is secure from terrorism, whether it's domestic or international.
Can this have a reverse effect? Can the CVE, in a sometimes institutionalized injustice against members of the Somali community by criminalizing Muslim youths, profiling them?
Yeah, I mean, profiling is always harmful, and we need to avoid that. And, you know, I'm a member of this community, and, you know, I have children born in Minneapolis who I'm raising in Minneapolis. And I don't want to be targeted, and I don't want my loved ones to be targeted. But I don't think this is what the program is. I think the program has learned from previous programs, and I think what this program is right now, and the part that I am involved in, is to create opportunities for our community, to make sure that our community is better integrated into mainstream society, and to make sure that there is hope for our youth. Because, like I said before, you know, it's members of the community who are homeowners, who are professionals, are not enticed. Members of the community who are over 40 years old cannot be, you know, enticed. So it is the younger, more vulnerable, out of place individuals, and they're the ones that we need to target and design tailor-made programs for and create opportunities for. So then they feel part and parcel of society, and then they become defenders and not people who are susceptible to these messages of ISIS.
What do you make, Abdi, of this anti-immigration movement in the United States? It's affecting Latinos a lot. Do you think it might spread to others?
I mean, we're a nation of immigrants, and I don't think building a big wall, a beautiful wall, a wall with Trump written on it is actually going to solve the immigration problem that we're facing. And I think a lot of this right-wing pandering is very dangerous, because what it forgets is that we all came from other places. That this is a nation of immigrants. This is a nation that was built by immigrants. And even Mr. Trump's great-grandfather came to this country as an immigrant. So the fact that the generation, the people who came before us from Eastern Europe and Western Europe and parts of Asia have forgotten their experience, is troubling. And I think that it's not affecting just the Latinos, it's affecting everybody. It's affecting decent Americans who want to live in this country and who want to build a home in this country, and who are the drivers of economic prosperity in this country. And I think it's dangerous, but it gets headlines, and we have 24-hour news and social media. And Mr. Trump right now is running on this wave.
Councilman, thank you so much. We'll call on you again.
Oh, thank you very much, Larry.
Councilman Warsame from Minneapolis, thanks for joining us today.